Welcome back to Tekken is Life, Episode 1, Part 2. You're a noob, and that's okay. I wanted to add a little bit to the end of the last video. Forgive me for the production of these first two videos. I'm finding my groove here, and I wanted to kind of put this together as Episode 1, but it was too long, and I wanted to complete my thought about this entire beginning phase of Tekken. So the rest of the episodes I will try to structure as maybe like 30-40 minutes long that are kind of a more complete thought than the first episode was. But I think by the time we're done with this episode, we'll get that complete thought. It's pretty much already pre-recorded from what I was working on before. I'm just going to work on an intro and an exit of it, and we'll be good. Anyways, I wanted to say at the end of the last episode that there's a reason why I'm calling the series Tekken is Life. I've had a conversation with my best friend over and over about how so many aspects of learning this game are so similar to actual life situations, and I would like to incorporate that a little in the show. So at the end of every episode, I'm going to talk about general concepts in the game, and then I'm going to take those concepts and give you some real life examples, lessons, tips, maybe. I don't know. I'll see how it goes, and I don't know. Let me know if you guys like that. I know in the end of the last video, we were talking about learning punishment and combos, and I was going to jump right into the punishment, but I need to talk about poking, and so I'm going to create a clip and stick that in right now, and then so if the next clip doesn't seem like it's quite in order, it's probably not, but here we go, and I'll stop talking. Very important fundamental thing to learn to do is poking. A very simple concept and a very simple pretty much execution of it. Your one jab and your down forward one are two of the most important moves in the history of Tekken, and they do so many different things, and they do so many things that are good for you offensively and defensively, but especially defensively to stop pressure. You always want to have a poke that's a high, that's fast. Your standard one jab is that. I don't know why I keep saying job. Your two can work as that as well. Your 1-2 can work as that, whatever. You want to have a mid poke. Your down forward one is that. Your mid poke is 13 frames, like we've talked about before. This is to stop people that pressure you with a lot of mids, or even just slower, heavier attack moves. And then you want to have a nice little low poke. Why do we poke, everybody? Why do we fall, Bruce? To frustrate. You want to frustrate your opponent. You know, these moves up here, your jab and your down forward, have multiple purposes as well, but your low pokes are all about frustrating your opponent. There is a general theory behind anyone's offense is you're trying to kind of force a launch, even though launchers and combos aren't the most important thing in the game ever, and you have to do it. But the whole back and forth that you're going to have with your opponent is kind of dictated with how do I try to pressure you to launch. And so doing these pokes helps keep people basically from trying to try that over and over and over again. You keep them out of situations where they can try to build up pressure on you to launch you, and that's in general what poking is. I will go into more poking because there are definitely characters that are much better at it than others. Some others just don't. For example, Kazuya has a down forward one that's 15 frames. That's horrible for poking, but it serves other uses. It's got more range than Jin's for one, but anyways, learn a few pokes, a high, a mid, a low, maybe something that has a little bit of tracking. It doesn't even have to be super slow, especially the low ones. And these are going to be the things that you're going to try to use to try to start opening up your opponent that might be turtling or blocking. Because when you start getting good with your combos and even punishment, even if you're just 10 frame punishing people, what is this? 1-4, yeah. People get scared of you. They get scared of you quick, and you'll just see them just start to back off, and you're gonna need to start working on opening them up. I love that feeling when people are just like, I got nothing, and just backing off constantly, and then you can just get in there and start expressing your offensive self, you bastard. All right, let's get into a new subject here, punishment. This is the other thing that I think everybody should learn immediately when learning a new character, and especially when you're starting this game. The reason I like learning combos and punishment first is because these are both sources of guaranteed damage. And I'll go over in a little bit later this video why I feel that's important too. But when you have situations where you have guaranteed damage, then you can always be looking out for those situations and capitalize on them as much as possible. Okay, so as we were talking about before about frames, you know, when your move lands, you get into a certain advantageous frame situation. This move gives Akuma a +7 situation, you know, so he can freely go ahead and try to do some more attacks and things like that. Now it's completely different on block. Now this is the same move on block. -13. That means my opponent has 13 extra frames to act before I can. So this is not good for me. I don't want to be in a situation where after I get blocked, I'm trying to go in for further pressure, because now almost anything he can do is going to hit me, and if he knows what he's doing, he's going to counter hit me and bust me for a huge combo. So okay, now you're on the other end. You're the one taking the block. So what do you do in this situation? First of all, what is a punishment? And let's go ahead and show that. Tekken 7 has a really nice punishment training that I really like, and you can do a whole lot more with this training than just punishment training. I'll go over that in a bit too. But let's go over the fundamentals. No, let's begin practicing. What's a punishment? Okay, so this guy, this is a king. He's doing this move that's -13. So you know how I was saying before that this move is this many frames, this move is this many frames? Well, because his move is -13 and I'm in a +13 situation because I'm taking the block. So the attacker, when the move is blocked, is going to be in the negative. The defender is going to be in the positive. Well, this move right here starts with a down forward 1, which is 13 frames, but I can always connect that move to it. So if you just block that move, oops, wrong one. That counter move, which I'm going to do on after I block, is guaranteed. I'm always going to connect that as long as I punish in the window that I can. Why is this? Remember the stun animation we were talking about for the offense when the move hit? All right, let's let this move hit. Look what it does to me. You know, it puts me in bad situations. It knocks me down. It wall splats me. I can't act. I can't do anything. But on block, watch the offensive guy's animation. Now it takes him 15 frames after he does that attack to go from his attack animation back into neutral. And so it's just the reverse situation as when you're on offense and the move hits. And this is what you're going to utilize to punish. I got a +15 situation. This is generally a situation at +15 that I'm going to be able to use a launcher. So it's kind of good to know which moves are launch punishable, but you're not going to know too much about that right now because you're just starting off in the game. So I would recommend try your 10 frame punisher to punish in the beginning and then kind of move upward. Actually, let's go over the frames of the punish. Okay, so we got this, let's see, what is this? 10. Oh, I had punished already. So this is going to be my 10 frame punishment. It's going to start with a jab and it links up to this hit. Remember how I talked about jabs being 10 frames. A good little tip here too. In the beginning, when I first started playing Tekken, I was finding a really hard time punishing things. I was just late on everything, just because instinctually I was waiting for the animation of whatever move they threw out to be over before I tried to launch my punish, and that's too late. You can use a couple of things to help you with this. Use the block flashes. See those little flashes that appear once you do those blocks? As soon as you see the last one is when you want to do the punish. Don't pay attention to the animation of the move. Either look at those block flashes or even listen to the block sounds. Once you hear that block sound, that's when you want to punish. That's an 11 frame punish. Same concept. If you're doing too aggressive of an attack, look at this one. He's I'm +24. He's going for a launcher. Like, this move launches. But if I block that launcher, I can do my launcher back on him. That's why launchers are so, you know, risky to do. You want to be careful when you do them. Okay, same thing when on lows. Lows have different frames. This low is going to give me a +16 situation. I can launch with that. Once you're over 15, you can pretty much launch. Oops, slow. I'm doing what I did before. I'm waiting for the animation. Something like that. Okay. Let's see what's another one. Okay, this is my 13 frame one. This is that down forward 1-2 we were looking at. +7. So that's a good thing too. Again, with the Trinity situation we're talking about, so your different punishes are going to give you different situations of what happens once you perform them. So this is going to be my 10 frame. This is a knockdown for me. It allows me to follow up and try to get a grounded hit or just be in an advantageous situation. This is an 11 frame punish. Usually the weaker frames, the smaller frames of the punish, what it's going to do is more give you frames. So it connected, and now I think I was in a +4, +5, so it allows you to attack again. Same with down forward 1-2. It just gives me more frames. So on hit, +7, then I can use my turn again to follow up and do some kind of attacks. Okay, I hope this is making sense. Just get the rhythm right, and what I was saying earlier is you have several different punishes. I'm sure Tekken 8 is going to have a tutorial that's just as good as this one, if not better, and it'll pretty much show you moves of any character. So if you're having trouble with a character, just select that character as your opponent and just do the standard tutorial to get a better idea of where you can have windows. So next time you face a king, you can recognize, oh, he did that launcher, that's -15. It gives you something to give you a frame of reference of when you can do these things. But in the beginning, I would figure out what your 10 frame punish is, and maybe a 12 frame punish. Akuma doesn't. Oh yeah, he has down too. Duh. Wonderful 12 frame move. So figure out some of your smaller punishes. I mean, go through the tutorials and they'll show you all the punishes. But when you're trying to fight somebody and you might not know what is punishable, what frames it's punishable, so you might not always start off with a 10 frame, because if a move is punishable, oops, why am I key charging? Your 10 frame is always going to land. And then if you're doing a 10 frame punish every time, it's always working, then you might want to shift it up and try your 13 frame punish or something like that. If your 13 frame punish starts always landing, then you might want to go into something that can be launch punishable or something like that. Oh, another good point I wanted to mention, I started before, but I lost my train of thought. You can use these tutorials for much more than just punishment training. Like what I would do, see this move is a low, so instead of doing the punishment, I would work on my low parries this way. She's just always going to throw a low, so I would start working on what is a good thing, because in this game you can do a full combo after a low parry. In Tekken 8, you're not going to be able to. You're not going to be able to do the tornado move and extend your combo, but you can do everything up to the tornado move. So if you want to start practicing what do I do after a parry, or what do I do after that, you can use this this tool that this game is going to have. But I want to show you one more thing that you can do it too. You can kind of, yeah, okay, this is a high, how many frames is that? You can kind of use this mode for other things too, like counter hit training, like there you go. He's coming at me with something high, and it's never going to reset into the next move because you're not doing the punishment training, so you can just practice counter hit training. Or with Akuma, I would practice my focus, you know, stuff like that. And what can I do with this? And maybe even my more, you know, bigger boy combos, like especially at the wall. Anyways, just stuff like that. So use your trainings, understand what punishment is, and once you get a good grasp of it, it's actually going to encourage you to block more. When you're facing somebody that's just nonstop throwing strings at you, I mean, and strings, not like even techniques, but just or Akuma doesn't have too many strings, but they, you know, you might be facing a Lucky Chloe that's throwing all this crap at you, even though she's not going to be in the new game. Kind of goes to a point of mine before. People used to say she's cheap and she's this and that. Yeah, I guess people play cheaply sometimes because they don't really know better. But at the end of the day, you're not punishing the Cali roll or you're getting so frustrated with the low pokes that you're eating the mid launch. You know, and that's what I mean about a lot of these characters and how people complain about them and stuff. Most of the time, up until you get to a certain level, it's your own gameplay that's causing your frustration. So if you clean that up, you're gonna play better. You're gonna do better against these characters. So anyways, understand punishment. Understand that this can be done. And of course, in future videos, like for example, you know, I've been talking about doing intermediate and advanced videos too. Then we're going to go into more advanced techniques with punishments, like how to recognize launch punishable stuff and always going for the launch punishable stuff. Or, you know, I went over the basics of combos. The intermediate video is going to talk about you know, optimizations, which enders give you certain, you know, like things like Oki and things like, you know, I keep saying I'm going to talk about this stuff later, but I don't want to overwhelm new players right away with everything that can be done in every situation, because that's the layers that Tekken provides you. So first, get a good understanding of the base layer. Know that you can be defensive and still get guaranteed damage quite often, especially against beginners against you, because they're often going to do things that are launch punishable. That's minus 18 for me. So if my opponent blocks that, he can easily launch me back. So look for that. When people are rushing you down and just throwing out a bunch of moves, just block and try your 10 frame punish and go from there. If that's always working, try something heavier, and yada yada yada. I think that's all I want to touch bases about punishment. It is important to go with your combo training, because if you got some combos and you got some punishment, you're starting to become a pretty decent player. If you got some combos and you got no defense, I mean, you're basically a wet piece of paper, and who cares? It's pointless to have good offense when everything is going to work against you. So get a good idea of some things you can do offensively and defensively, and you're going to approach this game and be much better at it, have much more fun, be able to think and strategize and not just sit here pressing buttons, because fighting games, you're not playing a fighting game if you're just doing whatever and pressing whatever buttons and learning a few strings and just rinsing and repeating. You're just pressing buttons. You're playing a fighting game when you start understanding the mechanics and using those mechanics to create whatever situation you want, basically. All right, I'm going to cut this short, and let's go on to the next segment. All right, so we're starting to get a handle on our offense. We're starting to get a little handle on our defense. How do we put this all together in matches? Okay, so you're in a match with somebody. First of all, here are some things that you should never, ever, ever, ever do. People do it all the time, and it's just funny. The first thing is, don't fight the air. You're back here. Why are you throwing out moves? Why are people doing stuff like this? Like, I kind of get the idea. They're like, I want to do this string so the last hit barely hits them from a distance. You have a lot of other moves that can close the distance. Don't fight the air. You never want to just throw out moves that are not going to connect. Why? Okay, so those frames that we were talking about, like this move, this jab is +8 on hit. On block, it's +1. On whiff, it's the worst ever. I don't even know if I can show it because it doesn't really show you the frames of whiff. But now you have the animation of the move, which is 10 frames, whatever the recovery animation is if it's on block, and a couple extra frames, really. So you have way more frames that you are in the negative and can be launch punished when you're throwing out moves. So you always, whatever offense you want to throw at somebody, basic, advanced, I don't care what it is, make sure the move at least connects to make them block. Because whatever move you throw out, the best frame situation you'll be is always on hit. The next best frame situation you'll be is if they block it. The worst is if you whiff. If you whiff, anybody that knows what they're doing with their character has a move ready to go to launch you and just to crush you. So stop fighting the air. Don't do this. As I mentioned in the last video, I understand the urge to press buttons. Like, I just want to do something. I don't want to do nothing. I I get that. And use that urge on your D-pad. Don't use the right side of your controller, the left side of the controller. Move. Always move. You know, if you're not going in for attack and you think they're trying to size you down for their approach, make sure you're a hard target. Why is moving that important? And not just lateral movement. Don't just move back and forward. You can sidestep in this game. There's two ways to sidestep. You can either tap down twice or up twice to do a single step, or if you tap down twice and hold it down on the second tap, or tap up twice and hold it down on the second tap, you actually walk, and you get so much more distance in your step. So that's a side walk, that's a side step, that's a side step, that's a side walk. Do these things. Why? Okay, so when you're sidestepping, there's a certain amount of moves on your opponent's move list that just won't hit you. They're too linear. Something like this from Falkenraum. It's great, it has great reach, it's 12 frames, but it is linear AF. You can sidestep it easily, you know? So what you're doing when you get into some situations where you want to make yourself a hard target, you're limiting the number of moves in their move list that will connect with you. And that's a good situation for you. Now, of course, people know that they have moves that have tracking that actually hit people that sidestep. Sorry, if you didn't know as a beginner, in your move list you have moves that actually hit people when they're sidestepping. You have some moves that are just fully tracking that will hit any sidestep from any directions. You have some moves like a down forward usually has some tracking to either left or right, just depending on the character. I think it's left, I'm not sure. So people have ways to get around your movement as well, but make it difficult for people. Maybe do a sidestep into a sidewalk, maybe duck down, or do a dash in forward block and stop and sidestep. Basically, you're creating situations that it's going to make it really hard for them to nail you down, and maybe they'll try a move that doesn't have any tracking right when you step, and it's going to create you, an opening for you to launch. What I was saying about all those different types of launchers that you have as well, all those launchers are effective in certain situations, like I was mentioning a wall rising launcher, or a launcher that you can do when you approach somebody or as you approach somebody. Typically your approach launcher, and it's going to involve some kind of forward motion or forward down neutral or something like that. Those are the launchers you want to do when you notice that people are either fighting the air or they're whiffing a lot, because that gets you in and gets you doing a move quickly, you know. Then you have like a mid launcher that's often connected to your down forward too, but not always. This is good for people that are ducking. Let's say you're trying to get pressure and doing some jab stuffs, and then they duck to get away from you. That's when you want to do your mid launcher. Mids are wonderful for stopping lows and hitting ducking opponents, you know. And then, for example, Falkenraum has a sidestep launcher, so I could step something that you do, launch you, and get a nice big juicy combo. Let's do that again. Oh, let's change that to approach. So let's say, boo, that was his old max damage, doesn't work anymore. No, that's a dumb combo. Let's do this. I like this one. And I did nothing. Wonderful. You know, you're gonna use your launchers in certain situations, so you know, just to know that every launcher you have has a reason and a purpose to use it, and you kind of want to play with that in the beginning, and then in later videos I'm going to be even more specific and let you know which one of your launchers are best in certain situations. And then as we get more advanced, you know, for example, I've been talking about frames. Let's say, for example, come on, Marduk. You know, this is a 2-hit move that gives me a +6. So for beginners, I just want people to know that that's a +6 situation, and you can continue trying to pressure offense. For the intermediate players, I want to teach you that once you have a +6 situation, you want to have like 3 go-to options ready to go. And one of them is always going to be a mid-launch. One of them is going to be a fast, chonky low. Something that you can mix up with your mid-launch, you know. Actually, you can have more options, because you can also throw throws in there. You can throw a sidestep, like, you know, if you're +6, you don't have to attack. You You know, sometimes you're doing your frame advantage and you're going for a high. They got a read on you, and they might duck it and get ready for a move. So have an option ready to get in a frame advantage and maybe sidestep and get ready to punish. You know, like. I want you to have 3 or 4 options for every situation, and we'll go into later videos. What are these situations? Actually, you know, let's go into that right now. I think that's important for beginners to understand as well. Situations. Why do I keep using this term? Okay, because you have plenty of situations. You have this situation, which is your standard. This is how you begin the round. You're in neutral. You're both about this distance away, and you have at 0 directional input. You don't want to be doing, let's say you're this distance away, you don't want to be doing your forward launcher because it's too many frames to get going and to do something. And if somebody does as simple as a little jab or whatever, it's going to interrupt you, and you're not going to be able to perform that move, that technique effectively. So there's going to be a whole range of types of moves that you want to do at this range, and then let's say you're a little bit further away, have some distance. There's going to be a whole nother set of your move list that you want to do it this way. This is why you have 150 moves, people, and it's not 150 moves. Like 7 of those moves are throw from a front, throw from the side, or throw from behind. You know, there's going to be a lot of reuse stuff, or half a dozen of those moves are going to be like, well, you got down forward 1 2, and then you got down forward 1 this string, or then you got this extension of that string. So it's going to begin a certain way and then going to give you options to finish. So that's another reason I don't want you to be daunted about these move lists. Yeah, it's a high number, but it's not like each individual thing is a brand new technique that you have to learn. A lot of these are repetitive. A lot of these are just have little extensions at the end. You know, those extensions at the end kind of give you your options on what to do when you have people in certain situations. So what are the common situations? You got neutral, you got crouch. When you're crouching, you can actually do moves on them that force them to crouch. I'm minus 12, and I forced him to crouch, and he can definitely punish me with, let's say, a wall rising 4, but it's a situation I can create on him, and I'll go over in further videos why you want to do that and what you can do in those situations. So you can force crouch, you can be in crouch, you can be in you know, neutral distance, you can be at a distance, you can have somebody against the wall. When you have somebody's back against the wall, you know how many times I see a Kazuya player do 1-1-2? When they have my back against the wall? Like, why do 1-1-2? You know, do something that wall splats, or do some kind of mix-up that's going to get you ready to wall splat somebody. You know, like have an idea, depending on where you are, what you're doing, what your next move is going to be. And a lot of these moves overlap, so you could have certain things that you want to do while you're rising, and it might just be the same thing you want to do at the wall because of the same reasons you want to use it for your wall rising situation. Other situations, when you have somebody on the ground, you know, what do you do then? Well, everybody has moves. Didn't mean to do that. What is it? Oh, yeah. Everybody has moves that hit you on the ground. And so it's good to know what your high damage moves are. Some moves that you hit grounded people actually have some tracking, so if they do something else, you could still clip them. So there's a lot of things you can do in that situation too. You know how many times I see somebody knock me to the ground and then start a string like that? Like, why are you doing highs when I'm on the ground? Those highs are always going to miss, and if I tech roll out of that, I'm going to wall rise launch you and take at least half your life. And if I have rage, good God. Okay, I'm in rage. Let's show you an example of how much damage. Let's say I duck something that you do, and how much damage can I get off of that? Let's see. I'm not far enough. Hush, FIFA. Hush, 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 hush. Hush. Hey, baby. Hey, baby. Oh, I love you too. Hey, Fifis, I love you too. You want a big hug? I'll give you a big hug. I'll give you a big hug. Hey, Maddox. Hey, Maddox. No, don't fight. Don't fight. I got enough attention for both of you. Those are my German Shepherds. I have 2 solid black German Shepherds, one long-haired, one short-haired, both females, sisters from the same litter, and I love them to death. They and my wife are my girls. and they are my life. Quiet. I was mentioning earlier, or mentioned in a comment just earlier today, when quite a few people from my last video have been saying, just get a stick and start working on a stick, and I can't. I got some issues with my hands that if I do those motions and those, I used to work with my hands. I started a moving company back in my 20s, and I've done just about everything when it comes to moving, including being on the trucks, you know? Alright, so here you go. I just took off like 65-70% of your life bar because I read your low and I punished it. So that's my point on that, basically. I'm going to edit out a few of the tries. It took me maybe like 5 or 6 tries to get that, and I think my dogs were barking in it. So if it just clips into this video, all of a sudden you'll know why. Alright, so after editing out some doggy business, alright, so we're talking about the punishment of that high when somebody was trying something when I was on the ground that was kind of pointless. So I'm going to kind of end that segment there, but that's what we're going to go into in more advanced tutorials about what to do in just about every given situation you can imagine. You know, even like balcony breaks and stuff like that. What's the mechanics behind wall combos? How many hits do you get? When should you do your balcony break? Should you do an immediate balcony break, or if you can get a couple of hits and then break the balcony, should you do and there's instances where you're going to want to do it either way. But anyways, we're going to get into all of that. I want to make a couple of quick points, and then I'm going to pretty much work on a little recap to end this first episode in this first video. But back to my points. Okay, we were talking about movement, stepping, things like that. So I want you to start in your defensive strategies. Don't just think about blocking high, blocking low. Do both of those. Blocking low blocks lows, but hits by mids, but evades all highs. Blocking highs, of course, blocks highs, blocks mids, but gets hits by lows. And when you work on your sidestep, I need you to understand this mechanic about the hit and hurt boxes of these characters. So every character has a certain box that when you do a hit, it's going to either register as a hit or a whiff, you know? And sometimes my buddy used to get really frustrated with this too, because he would do a move, let's say when I was on the ground, and he would think that animation shows that his leg is clipping my leg as I'm doing my tech roll, that it should count as a hit, but because the move he did was actually very linear, even though it does hit grounded, it's linear, I was tech rolling, so even though the animation kind of shows some overlap, it's the system of the game showing that tech roll avoids linear attacks. And so he would get frustrated with that. So the hurt and hitboxes might not look exactly like what the character model is, but it's usually similar. But what happens is your hurt box is a certain size when you're not attacking. So let's just say it's exactly the size of my body, as an example. Like look at his outline. That's my hurt box when I'm standing and not attacking. As soon as you hit an attack button, whatever it is, see, your body is going to start having animations towards your opponent. It's going to increase your hurt box, your hit box of what area somebody else has to throw a hit to be able to connect with you. So now it's no longer just that skinny Fakam shape. It's a bigger square because it has to account for the visual of your leg going out, so it's a bigger hurt box. So when you're sidestepping, be patient with it. If you sidestep into a move constantly, like giving yourself a micro step and then an attack, a lot of people like to sidestep into their mid launchers, that kind of stuff, which is cool if you want to do, but if somebody's launching an attack that has even a little bit of tracking, it's going to clip you before you can do that. I was going to see if I could show that to you, and I probably can find a way to show that to you, but I'm trying to rush through this little segment and recap the video because I think we're at a fairly long time, and I don't want to get people to get overly bored with this. But so know that. So when you're stepping, you know, almost get used to just walking rather than stepping, so you can give yourself some time to get away from whatever maneuver that you're trying to evade. So, you know, when you're stepping for a reason. You're trying to evade an attack. So if you try to do your hit too fast or do something too fast, you're increasing the size and making it more likely that his hit was going to hit you. Whereas if you just walked without pressing an attack button, you keep your hitbox smaller and it's harder for them to connect. I know we've gone over a lot of information, but just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Be patient on defense. Don't be so quick to look for an immediate chance to attack. Let things develop from your defender or from your opponent before you start reacting. You got some time. That's the other thing I wanted to talk about in this game too. You have some time. Street Fighter has really small windows. I mean, I'm talking about if you want to do the expert pro stuff, you're talking about 1 to 2 frame lengths, and we've already talked about the unit of time a frame is. But even some of the more optimal stuff is like 3 to 5 frames. I mean, that's half the speed of this jab, if not less. So, you know, a lot of times in Street Fighter, you're buffering your next attack. You're doing a standing 2 into a Shoryuken motion, so your button presses are 2 and your motion is coming out in between. Don't do that with this game. You have time. Once you launch somebody, like that timing needs to be a little rushed when you start to go for max damage and optimal stuff, but you're nowhere near attempting that stuff yet. So first, whatever you want to do, you got time. And those combo extensions, the screw moves, the tornado moves, they give you even more time to run up and finish. So if you struggle fulfilling these combos, maybe try being a little bit more patient. You've got plenty of time to do them. Make sure your inputs are correct. Make sure they're precise. If you have a combo starter like that goes into, let's just do the basic one. Back 1, down forward 1, down forward 2, tilde 2, whatever it is. So make sure you're getting those inputs right and not rushing through them with a bunch of button presses, trying to spam. And I know what you're doing. You're trying to buffer like you do in other games. Don't. Sometimes you're going to want to buffer in this game, but they're specific and rare moments. But just don't buffer and be patient with it. Okay, we've gone through over a lot of information, and those are just the basics, guys. But I feel like if you go and approach the game in these ways and do these things, you're going to have a huge advantage over everybody else that's at your level and starting to learn this game and might not be picking up some of these things as quickly. And that's kind of the point of this whole thing. I kind of look back and look at my gameplay now and from when I first started, and I was just thinking, I wish I had gotten in the habit of doing these things earlier, because as you know, it's hard to break muscle memory, it's hard to break habits, so if you can get into some of the better habits in the first place, it's a good thing. And I guess I can understand the logic of, well, you should do that with harder things too, like execution and things like that. You should just start getting in the habit of doing those things. No, you need to get a base understanding of how everything works before you start to optimize and maximize, at least in my opinion. Anyways, I'm going to end this segment. I'm going to work on a recap, and yeah, here we go. Alright, thanks for bearing with me with all that. I really was expecting when I was going to make this video that I could go over like beginning, intermediate, and advanced, and maybe make like a 30-minute video and cover everything. But as I started thinking about what I wanted to say, and you know, bear with me. I'm working on my presence in this theater, I guess. I still find it weird to hear my own voice, you know. I'm going to do the best I can for you guys, really. I feel like my channel is going to be a little bit different than a lot. I'm never going to be looking for clicks and your views and things like that. I mean, of course I want viewership, but I want to like show you things. Some of the better videos or more viewed videos I had were things like this, where I was messing around in the lab with Street Fighter, and I just wanted to figure out max damage combos or max damage in this situation, or with this starter as a launcher, with meter, without meter. Those are the kinds of way that's the kind of way I approach gaming. I like to break things down as much as humanly possible, and then take those mechanics and apply whatever strategy I want with them, and make it you know, fun. That's how I get down, I guess, you know. I kind of do that in life as well. And I guess I wanted to take a minute and talk about a couple of points that I touched on today, gaming wise, which was having strategies and having plans, and being able to develop confidence in your in your fighting strategy and what you're doing on the screen. And I think Tekken does a really good job at teaching a lot of those life lessons to people, because like, Tekken's a really complex game. I just did a beginner's tutorial that's damn near 2 hours long. It's a complicated game. It's like I was saying before, it's not hard. So when you approach something that's going to be complex, or maybe even if it's going to be difficult, you got to have a plan. You got to break it down and then turn it into accomplishable steps and goals and things like that. If you don't, you're just always going to get overwhelmed, and these things are just going to go over your head, and you're never going to attempt these things, and you never know. These things could be super fulfilling, and you could be really, really good at it. You just don't know. Nobody starts as a guitar hero. Nobody starts as a genius. Nobody starts as the best Tekken player in the world. You build up to that, you know, and you play and you learn and you keep at it and you get better, and that's how these things go. You know how many times I hear people talk about, I just don't have a lot of confidence, and I don't know if I want to do that. It's just not my thing. And you know, confidence doesn't just magically appear one day. You know, confidence is something that is created and something that you make for yourself, not like you know, grocery shopping, like I'm gonna go get some confidence today. It's just part of life. It's part of experience. You got to put yourself in situations, and most often in the beginning you fail a lot. You fail a lot, but you learn from those mistakes and you come back and you do something a little bit differently, and lo and behold, all of a sudden you're accomplishing things, and things are happening. And every time you break through those hurdles and do something you didn't think you could do, you feel better about it, but you're building that confidence. Then the next difficult thing you do, you're going to be like, oh, remember that last thing I did, and I did it well. I think I can do this, you know. So these aren't things that you are just going to magically appear, you know. And with your Tekken game, it's the same thing. It's going to require a little bit of time and energy, but it doesn't have to be homework. You can make these things fun. You can learn the parts and the aspects of the game that make it fun, and even though the challenge is there, you know, you get down your combos, you get down your punishments, you get down these basics of the game, and your time is going to go a lot easier. And I don't know, I think you're just, when you get to the point where you're doing the things that you want to, you're having more fun. Once you start having fun in the game, you'll never want to let it go, you know. And that's what I want you to do with this game. I love the Tekken franchise. I want everybody in the world to be the best they possibly can be in this game, because I want to see you out there, and I want to fight you, and I want to fight you at your best. And I just think that would be totally, totally cool. I'm the kind of guy that sits back and watches Jeopardy, doesn't say a word the entire show. Nobody can answer the last question. I'm like, the capital of Burkina Faso is Ouagadougou, and that's it, and I'll go back to eating my chips. So this is what I'm going to give to you guys, and if anything, if you just remember one single thing today, just remember the capital of the African nation, Burkina Faso is Ouagadougou. Thank you very much.